All right, Labour Minister Chris Ngige is hitting back at organized labor days after they threatened to ground the economy over the review of the national minimum wage.
Yeah, Ngige is accusing the labor unions of blackmailing government over ongoing negotiations. But Labour insists that its 14-day ultimatum stands since the wage review meeting has been adjourned indefinitely. Correspondent Joker Disa reports now.
Also call on government to ensure.
It is now a war of words between organized labor and the authorities over the struggle for a new minimum wage. At a news conference in Abuja, NLC President Ayuba Waba, they affirmed the 2-week ultimatum issued by organized labor to the government to resume talks.
Committee.
He queried the indefinite postponement of the tripartite meeting.
But just while we are trying to tidy up the process, because the report is almost ready, then the Minister of Labour came with an information to say that the discussion should be adjourned sine die until they are able to do further consultation. And we thought that at that point in time is something that is unexpected.
Making a demand.
But Labour and Employment Minister Chris Ngige insists organized labor jumped the gun.
It's very surprising to me that Labour was given ultimatum of 2 weeks. The ultimatum is uncalled for. It's not necessary. The ultimatum is a red herring. It's crying wolf where there is none.
He accuses the different labor groups of submitting unrealistic figures.
Labour has figures readily because they are making a demand. They made first a demand of 56,000 and withdrew it and asked for 65. ULC, even though they are unregistered, they are made up of unions, of workers. They are the one asking for 96,000. So what Labour has done now is to do an average of their recognized union and unrecognized union. This time around, they're interested in unrecognized union and give us an average. We got up to that 60-something.
Ngige says the Buhari administration is a labor-friendly government.
This government have not retrenched any single worker since we came. The president is averse to any retrenchment. This government, if anything, have been replacing and employing new persons.
Organized labor had issued a 2-week ultimatum to the government to reconvene the tripartite meeting or risk industrial unrest. Joker Disa, TVC News, Abuja.
All right, the Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council Alfred Kemepado is still very much with us in the studio. We're expecting to be joined by our guest in Abuja studio there, though we lost a bit of contact with him. Okay, so now this minimum wage wahala. Is it a case,
really
is it a case of inability on the part of government to pay or the unwillingness to pay? What exactly is at the core of this? Because really, look at it, 56,000 naira? Is it too much to ask for on the part of the Nigerian worker?
Maybe, considering the recent downturn we had experienced in our economy, coming down of oil price and all of this. But you see, all of this gives relevance to the restructure debate.
Okay.
Now, look at it. The value of 18,000 naira in Sokoto is not the value of 18,000 naira in Lagos.
Very true.
Or Bayelsa State. You see why we need a restructured Nigeria, where every state can begin to operate within the peculiarity of the particles of that space. And let me also say this to Labour. The problem is not the upping of the minimum wage. If you like, up it to 100,000 naira. The real question is, what value is the 100,000 naira coming back with? Now, the minimum wage is 18,000 naira. Compare it. If the 18,000 naira was equivalent to an $18,000, would anybody be complaining?
No.
So Labour should begin to concentrate more on the value their currency has and the real income they will take back home. Labour should also concentrate more on those things that will add value to whatever they earn. Because at the end of the day, when you pick your 56,000 naira or 18,000 naira, anyone that is approved, you spend it and you pay it back to some of these so-called politicians or
taxes.
businessmen in the form of rent, in the form of transportation, in the form of other utilities
Even
that,
taxes.
that you need to take care of. So one of the things Labour should concentrate more on, rather than this upping of the wage, is how more housing can be provided for them, how the government can give more incentives to free health so that their children can be treated almost for free, how the government should provide working good schools that are at par with private institutions so that children of civil servants can go to school almost for free and come back. For example, this is not to blow the trumpet of anybody. There is this Ijon National Academy in Bayelsa State, hosted by Honorable Henry Seriake Dixon, where thousands of students are being taken for free, fed for free, schooled for free, medicines for free. So you see that that burden has gone off the average civil servant whose child is there. And such boarding schools are coming up in other areas. So what Labour needs to concentrate more on is to put pressure for government to provide these amenities that will take the reality in that income that they earn, the nominal income they earn. So that is the main thing, because you see, minimum wage was less than this at a particular point in time. And people lived very well. In short, as a matter of fact, they say in the good old days in Nigeria, people were earning salaries as low as 600 naira, and they were doing well. I know my uncle bought a brand new 504 for 6,000 naira. You get what I'm trying to say? So Labour should begin to concentrate on the value our currency had.
Okay, let's bring in here the head industrial relations of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Emmanuel Uwaja here. He is joining us from our Abuja studio. Ima, it's good to have you join us right now. Our guest in the studio, Alfred, is saying that the emphasis of every time NLC or labor unions coming to say we need more money for salaries, seem to be a little misplaced, that NLC should go beyond that level and see how we can look into the real values, the core values of housing and other issues for the populace. What is your take on this?
It's ironic that most of the time people make interventions without clearly understanding what the issues are. We are not saying anything that is extraordinary. Globally, worldwide, there is what is called a national minimum wage. We need to appreciate this concept. That you have a national minimum wage does not mean you will not build bridges. It does not mean you will not have housing. It does not mean that you will not have medical care. What it simply means is this is the wage a nation feels that an average worker in its own territory shouldn't be paid less than. America has a national minimum wage. It didn't stop America from constructing roads. It didn't stop them from building houses. It hasn't stopped them from intervening when they have hurricane and other disasters. So each time we try to deflate rather than address an issue, we have it completely mixed up. Nigerians should advocate for good infrastructure. It's not mutually exclusive to a national minimum wage. Nigerians should have decent medical care. It's not mutually exclusive to national minimum wage. That you had minimum wage at 600 naira in 1972. The American minimum wage in 1972 is not the same today. So we don't keep mixing up these issues.
Yeah, we do understand that. Let me remain with you, Ima. What Alfred Kemepado is saying is, look, all of these things are missing. Housing, good healthcare, education, and all of that. These are missing in this part of the world. And so the fight for minimum wage, look, how much will 56,000 really do for you? Or even if we said 100,000 naira, in the absence of housing, electricity, good roads, the basic necessities of life. If those are missing, how much will
my sister?
Yes.
There are different layers of negotiations. There are ongoing negotiations with regards to provision of housing for workers. There are pressures on public transportation for the working people, including ordinary Nigerians, even the non-working Nigerians. Those pressures and discussions are ongoing. They are not exclusive to Nigerian Labour Congress. Every Nigerian is weighing in. But the Nigerian Labour Congress has to intervene with regards to the national minimum wage. What will be the wage that the least paid worker in a country, that the country's government finds convenient, that any external investor, any internal investor, you say, look, my people are not slaves. If you have to go to work to earn a living, this is the least you can be paid on level 1, step 1. That is what minimum wage is about.
Okay.
So it has nothing. Now elections are coming on. Nigerians should rise, including the working people, to make demands of those that want to govern, to say these are the things that are missing. Nigerian Labour Congress will weigh in with regards to that. Also, we have had to engage presidential aspirants, organize debates with them to find out what they have in store for the people. Likewise, every other Nigerian. But the issue of a national minimum wage, it has to do with the industrial relations and industrial relations policy of a nation.
Okay.
And minimum wage is fundamental.
All right.
Is key.
Yeah.
Nigeria is a signatory to the ILO conventions. Minimum wage is fundamental.
All right, Emma, we'll come back to you on this.
That is in the front burner now for the Nigerian worker.
All right, we'll come back to you on this, Alfred. We heard the minister say that, well, give or take, the new minimum wage will come before 2019 polls. Some people are going to see the minimum wage issue, the carrot, as a political tool now.
Yeah, that sounds like a bribe.
Yeah.
That sounds like a bribe.
Yeah. So what's your concern in that regard?
Yeah, like I said, that sounds like a bribe. Like
bribery
recently,
is corruption.
Yeah, bribery is corruption. And let me tell you something. That's the funny aspect of this administration that I wish they do away with. In recent times, there were loots from Abacha, okay? And the present administration is trying to bring that in the form of, we call it trader money or whatever, and sharing it among market women. That's a form of legitimizing vote buying, if you may say. You understand? It's legitimizing vote buying. You see, let me tell you something. And you see, they are sharing this money around the country, and with no respect or with so much disrespect to the states like my Bayelsa, Delta, Rivers, where the oil money was taken from. You understand? So you see the insensitivity and insincerity in all of these things. So if you come back to your question, which is about how do you see this? I'm telling the labor that before 2019, you have your minimum wage. That's a bribe, but it's a good bribe, no problem. But
is there anything as a good bribe?
Well, just permit me to phrase it like
That's
that
fine.
for them. It's a good bribe.
Whether it's sarcastic.
Yeah, but you see, like what I wanted Emma to understand, and what I pray all Nigerians should understand is, before this administration came on board, $1 to a naira was about 180 something. Today is 362. Okay. Who knows what it will be next tomorrow? So what I'm trying to tell Emma is that let's assume that the minimum wage was 56,000 naira.
About a year ago.
About the time this administration came on board. Okay.
Yeah.
So what it technically means today, if a civil servant needs to travel abroad, is that the minimum wage is no longer 56,000 naira, it's about half of it. So what I'm saying is, my father is a civil servant. I was also a civil servant. So I'm not averse to it. In short, it's a demography that I respect so much. But what I want Emma to understand is that it's not about the increase in the figure. They should bother more about the increase in the value that is attached to the figure.
Yeah, of course, you've made that point. Let me take it to Imam Bwaja so that we can maximize the time that we have. Imam Bwaja, you're asking, among other things, apart from the issue of the minimum wage, whether it's 56 or 66, though it looks like you're shifting the goalpost in the middle of the game. Workers are also insisting on a minimum pension of at least half a percentage of the president's salary, while maximum wage should not be less than 15% of the president's salary. How realistic is that? Do you think this administration can actually deliver on that in addition to the minimum wage you're asking for?
We're not reinventing the wheel. There is a law. There is a law that provides that the minimum wage has to be reviewed every 5 years. Review can mean upward, it can mean downward. It depends on what the situation is. I appreciate what my brother from IYC is saying, and it's simple and straightforward. Nobody turns a blind eye to what value that the Naira has gotten positioned right now.
Yeah.
It also impacts on our calculations. If tomorrow the dollar to the Naira becomes $1 to 1 Naira, of course, the national minimum wage will be reviewed to reflect the reality in the country. That's what it's all about. It's not cast in any iron, it's review. You can review it to suit the situation in the country. So for the pensioners, it's a law that says a certain percentage of the pension has to be reviewed to reflect what the minimum wage is at any point in time. So we're not changing any goalpost. The problem with our government and the problem that has been reflected is a simple appreciation of industrial relations practice. You go to a negotiation carrying what is called a mandate. The person making the proposal comes with a mandate. The other person on the other side of the table comes with a mandate. The government came without a mandate. The government team came without a mandate. Our team has a mandate. They have placed their position. So we are not the ones changing the goalposts. It's a wrong phrase to say we have a position, and then you have to negotiate.
So what happens at the end of the month, September 30, if this new minimum wage is not realized? What then? Of course, you've given an ultimatum, which means that...
we're having our organ meetings this week.
Okay.
The National Administrative Council of NLC will be meeting today. The Central Working Committee will be meeting tomorrow. The National Executive Council will be meeting on Wednesday. And the ultimatum has already been given. We will carry out what we say we'll have to do. We have the capacity to protect our members.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Ima Ugboaja, the head Industrial Relations, Nigeria Labour Congress. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Alfred Kemepado, Secretary General, Ijo Youth Council. Thank you very much for spending your time. We had to use you for the first topic, and then the second one.
I'm happy to be used. That's what makes me useful.
You know?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for obliging us.
Thank you.
Of course, the economic team meets tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow, Tuesday.
Wage.
We'll be looking forward to knowing what the outcome will be. And the chairman, Ama Pepple, has said, well, government, we need to know the figures. What's a figure? Government, come with a figure.
Let's if the head of the committee doesn't know the figure, then
as at now.
A problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we have to let you know that the views and reactions of our resource persons on the topics discussed on the program today are their views and have no connection with TVC News. We need to put that straight for you to understand. Indeed.